New Brunswick has a rich heritage. Our recent history goes back to the 1530s when Jacques Cartier first visited the area and named the Bay of Chaleur. Much of that history is reflected in the homes we've built. For the most part, they highlight our English and French roots. But there are elements of other cultures as well. Many of those early houses still stand today. They are monuments to our ancestors and our past. Each has its own story. Join us now as we visit some of the great homes of New Brunswick. Old Government House in Fredericton opened in 1828. It was built to replace its predecessor, which had been destroyed by fire. It ceased being the official residence of the Lieutenant Governor in 1893 when its funding was cut. Since then, it's been a home to the deaf and mute, a military training center and hospital, and RCMP headquarters. Now it's been refurbished, and once again it's the official home and office of New Brunswick's Lieutenant Governor. Today we tour Old Government House. New Brunswick's capital, Fredericton, can trace its beginnings back thousands of years. The first inhabitants of the area were the Maliseet and Micmac Indians who hunted, fished, and grew corn and squash along the river they called Woolastook, later the St. John. Today, Fredericton has a population of just under 50,000 people. Its tree-lined streets, graced by Victorian-style mansions, make it one of the prettiest cities in the country. And where the French Acadians first settled in a new community called St. Anne's Point in 1732, and the English settled in 1768, now stands Old Government House.
Oh, good day to you. Unaccustomed as I am to speaking in public, and indeed conversing with persons to whom I have not been formally introduced, I feel compelled to avail myself of this opportunity to speak to you and give you my impressions of my time here in Fredericton. You see, I arrived here in this quaint colonial riverside town in the last days of British North America's rule by Britannia some 2 years ago in 1867. And yes, only days later, the 4 colonies of Upper and Lower Canada, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia joined together in the Confederation of Canada. My name is Juliana Horatia Ewing. I am the wife of Captain Rex Ewing, Chief Commissariat of Her Majesty's 22nd Cheshire Regiment, stationed here at the garrison to protect the newly formed Dominion from possible invasions by Irish Fenians or whomsoever. My Rex is in charge of feeding the men, and an army marches on its stomach, as you know. And what an important officer he is. Please excuse my boasting. I do love this quiet country town and enjoy a rich social life. Often I am invited here at the governor's mansion for balls and soirees with entertainment, dancing, and libations. Oh, but I do go on, and I'm sure you have better things to do than to listen to me natter on. Good day to you.
Dr. George Macbeth is a son of New Brunswick. He was born in Moncton and raised in St. John. In 1995, Dr. Macbeth published New Brunswick's Old Government House, a pictorial history. He knows more about the National Historic Site than anyone else. And as we stood on the lawn outside it, he told me about Old Government House.
Well, built in the sense of the architect, it would be a man by the name of Wolford. And he was engaged by what was called the Government House Commissioners. They were a small group, very influential individuals, and there was actually a public competition. And Wolford won the competition, and he was assisted by the then Lieutenant Governor, Sir Howard Douglas. And the work went on, local materials were used, and finally at the very end of the year 1828, it was completed, at least sufficiently, to have an opening ball, which was a huge affair.
What style of architecture is it?
It's referred to as Palladian or Georgian, if you like.
How was this site chosen first for the original building, which was destroyed by fire, and then its replacement, this one, back in those early days?
Our first governor, and he was the governor in the beginning, Sir Thomas Carleton, first of all, was the one who chose Fredericton to be the capital of a brand new province of New Brunswick. And having done so, he actually bought a property, which was here, And that he bought it simply as his private residence. He referred to it as Mansion House. And Mansion House in 1816 was purchased by the province from Thomas Carleton. I called him Sir earlier, but he wanted to be a Sir, but he wasn't. And anyway, the province purchased the building to serve as government house. And it really, in effect, continued to be the seat of government, because it was here that the Lieutenant Governor and his Executive Council met and really, in effect, ruled the province.
What was the building used for? I know it was a residence, but and offices, entertaining. What were some of the other uses for it?
Well, certainly from the outset, the Lieutenant Governor had his official residence in Old Government House. But as I mentioned earlier, it was also more than that. It was a seat of government, and that's why it's called Government House rather than residence of the Lieutenant Governor. It was a social center, balls, dances, musicals, and also because of the fine grounds, they were able to get out and have picnics and croquet parties, canoeing parties. An interesting thing is that the only interior view we have that is dating from the last century is a watercolor sketch, and it depicts ceremony come social event having to do with the Indians of the general area. They were invited each New Year's Day by the Lieutenant Governor to come, to be received, to be entertained, and in turn to entertain the others who were there, including, of course, the Lieutenant Governor.
It stopped being a residence when its funding was cut by the provincial government. Why did that happen?
Up to the time of Confederation, the various Lieutenant Governors appointed came from England. Following Confederation, the decision was made that the Lieutenant Governors would be native born, that is, having been born in New Brunswick. And this seemed to change things in terms of funding. Funding, in effect, decreased. One of our finest native-born Lieutenant Governors, Sir Samuel Leonard Tilley, complained, as did other governors, and he finally said that he was sick and tired of reaching into his own pocket to defray the expenses of running the Old Government House when they were properly the responsibility of the province.
Oh, good day to you. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Never being one to stand on ceremony, or to sit on it either for that matter, I'd like to give you the wherefore and the why of myself and tell you how I come to land the plumbist job in this fair city. Now I know what you must be thinking. How did this cheeky, or should I say forward, young Irish girl attain the position of cook for the Grand Governor in this grand colony of New Brunswick? A wee bit of Irish luck, you must be thinking, and you're not far wrong. For I was born to poor Irish folk in the capital some 20-odd years ago. My mum and dad were coming over on the boat, don't you know? They were escaping from the potato famine, they were. Terrible it was, or so me dad told me. Living as they were in that small village, perhaps you've heard of it. Dungarvan it was, and a fine cottage they lived in there, and they worked the soil and they made a meagre living, even in the best of years. And then when the blight struck and the potatoes came to nothing, what with the rot and them not being worth eating and all, we can understand why I took to cooking, and potatoes still hold a place of honour on my table and in my kitchen. And someday, we'll be famous the world around for growing the tubers. Oh, well, I'm blathering on. I know I am. I didn't want to give you a piece of my mind. I only wanted to let you know that I'm Annie O'Brien, that I'm from Fredericton and this is my kitchen. I'm at the proud service of our Governor, Lemuel Allen Wilmot. Proud as proud can be that I've got a good job and that I come from a fine Irish family. And someday I hope to have a family of my own, and wee ones who will come to my knee so I can sing them the songs of our ancestors and tell them tales of our little people and the days of long ago in dear old Ireland. Well, this New Ireland's nice as well. Well, there I go again. I best be getting back to my business and you to yours. So good day to you.
We'll return to the great homes of New Brunswick in a moment. Brunswick.
Well, hello, and good day to you. I'm Ross, Alexander Sandy Ross of the clan Ross, if you must be knowing me full moniker. For that's what me parents named me back when I was but a wee money in the Highlands of Scotland, some 25 long years ago. We're of the Red Rosses, if you canna tell by me colouring, and Red Sandy I was sometimes called when I studied at the Agricultural College in Edinburgh. And now I'm the gardener or the groundskeeper here. And in case you haven't detected, I am a Scot in this foreign territory, and the only way I can feel at home here is by bringing a wee bit of the turf of the Highlands to this heatherless place. 'Tis true, I miss me home in the Highlands, and one day I mean to bring the likes of Glencoe and Loch Lomond to these shores, and surely the flowers of Scotland will bloom here, and I'll be at home. My secret desire and ambition is one day to clear a farm in these hills, a farm of me own, with me own bairns and barns. Aye, such will bring us Scots some peace in this place. And what a wondrous place it is too, to see rivers like the Firth of Forth, and lakes as grand as any of the lochs in bonny Scotland. I'll never forget when I first stepped off the boat into Halifax Harbour, and a fine Scottish town it was. Nor will I forget the passage by schooner round the south shore and up the Bay of Fundy to the port of Grey St. John, some 60 miles downriver. Nor could I forget as I strode along Union Street to catch the river steamer at Old Indian Town. Aye, the hustle and bustle of the old port city in those days reminded me of Glasgow back in me native land. But I am nattering on here. I remain your humble servant, Alexander Ross, at your service. Perhaps you'd like to take a stroll of the pleasure grounds later on, but for now I'd best be getting back to me work, so good day to you.
Well, they were well developed, much more pastoral, I think, than we see today. And I don't know whether you've noticed or not, but there's a very well-known picture of Government House and its grounds showing cattle in the foreground, and they're grazing approximately where we're standing at the moment, as a matter of fact.
George, we're sitting in the dining room here. What are some of the outstanding features about it?
Ooh, the room itself. It's so nicely proportioned. So much in period, if you like. Outside we were talking about the fact that it was built in the late 1820s, and it's just an outstanding example of the finest architecture of that time. As we sit here, I can't help but notice the ceiling, for instance, the ornamentation that's there. Very correct and very pleasing to the eye. The room is also appealing because of the period furniture. And some of these pieces, the majority of the pieces that we see here today, were actually in Government House of a century and more ago. As I look around the room, I can't help but think of the remarkable skill demonstrated by some of the New Brunswickers of today who were called upon to come to Government House and to assist with the restoration. The stencils that are on the walls, for instance, the cornices, very elaborate cornices.
I noticed that in the drawing room next door there are some panels, and some of the original painting is hidden behind that panel.
There was a paint analysis done, that's true, and very carefully, layer by layer, scraping was done until it was established which color was the original.
There's some other panels in the drawing room as well where people have signed their names.
Well, this is true because all of the windows in these principal rooms are fitted with interior shutters, and some of them, when you close them, do reveal signatures.
I noticed that there's an interesting blend of the old and the new. Just upstairs there's a room that contains some of the work of New Brunswick artists and craftspeople from today, and that's, I think, kind of in keeping with the building's use as a community center over the years.
That's part and parcel of its history. It has been a center, a cultural center, a social center, a government center, all of these things.
Oh, excusez-moi. Bonjour, je m'appelle Pierre-Armand Landry et je suis très enchanté de vous connaître. Oh, I'm sorry, do you speak English or parlez-vous français? No matter, either are fine with me. Now you may be asking yourself, what is a 21-year-old law student from Memramcook doing here in Fredericton? The answer is threefold. Firstly, I'm here to visit my father, Armand Landry, who's sitting in the Provincial House of Representatives. Also, I was sent here by my mentor, Albert J. Smith, former Premier of this province, to deliver a message to His Excellency the Governor. I love these visits, for it gives me a chance to walk the corridors of power and experience true history and making here at Old Government House. It also gives me a chance to learn the ways of the wise men and the politicians, if the two aren't mutually exclusive, of course. And on a more personal note, I'm here to visit my true love, Miss Annie McCarthy. You know, someday I hope to return here to Fredericton as a representative of my people, the Acadians. I believe the two peoples of this province can live together in harmony, and someday I hope to be a part of that. Now, if you'll excuse me, I believe His Excellency will see me. A good day, and I bid you adieu.
Marilyn Trenholm Council grew up in Bay Verte, New Brunswick. She served 3 terms in the New Brunswick legislature, representing the riding of Tantramar for 10 years. On April 18, 1997, Dr. Marilyn Trenholm Council was installed as New Brunswick's 28th Lieutenant Governor. Her honor is the first female Lieutenant Governor to reside and work in the newly restored Old Government House. I met with her honor in one of her favorite rooms, the library, and asked her how she liked her new residence.
One is very aware of New Brunswick's history when one lives here, and of course the grandeur of the place, and also how it's changed. It's a place now that's very welcoming and open to the people of New Brunswick as well as our visitors, and it's just turned out to be a wonderfully easy place to work in and to do the things that I do, a lot of receptions and dinners and luncheons and story hours, of course. The breakfast room is beautiful. And I'm also going to mention the dining room, of course. The breakfast room is smaller, and from the breakfast room you can step out onto the old veranda at the back, and you have this marvelous view of the St. John River. You almost feel the water as you stand there, and one is very aware of the history of the province, how all of the peoples originally to New Brunswick came to New Brunswick via the river. The First Nations, the Acadians, the British, and so that's lovely. But the dining room is very special. Have you seen it?
I have seen it, yes. Well, it must be great having formal dinners in there.
Yes, the table is the table from the 1828, 1830s, and we had our first formal dinner with the Countess Mountbatten of Burma, who is the great-great-granddaughter of Queen Victoria. And that was a wonderfully exciting night. Although we'd had a luncheon there with some New Brunswick journalists and writers, but then the first formal dinner was with the Countess Mountbatten of Burma, and it was delightful. A library is always a wonderful room. It's a wonderful place to collect your thoughts, to expand your thoughts, to think about the past and the present and the future. This room is very special. As you can see, we have marvelous, marvelous windows here. And that window kind of captures Fredericton, the beauty of the trees and the Odell Park, of course, and the flowers. And then this window, this immense window looking out to the west, and we have wonderful sunsets there. But of course, the beautiful thing is the books. And I read to children here. I also come and read to myself, for myself. But we have, on this wall, we have books dating back to the 1800s, a very original collection of books. I have one of them here that I read to the children, Story Time. It's a book well over 100 years old, and the children just love the stories. I always talk to them about the costumes, the petticoats and the knickers and the curly hair and the little caps and things and the bows and the hair. They love that, and it's full of poetry and old stories, and so there's I love to read them the old books, but then I also read them new books, Sherry Fitch's books, for instance, other stories.
New Brunswick is fortunate to have a building as majestic as Old Government House. There's nothing quite like it in any of the other provinces. It was designed to accommodate the most formal events of the day, everything from glittering balls to the most solemn occasions of state. And yet it was a center for the community as well. Now refurbished, and once again the official residence of the Lieutenant Governor, it's been restored to its glory days of the past and has a strong role to play in the province's future.
If you own an older home, chances are you've been wondering about the right way to renovate. One of the most commonly asked questions is, what's the proper approach? Well, a lot depends on the architectural and historical importance of the house, what bylaws are in place, and how it's going to be used. But every approach requires some understanding of the basics. Today we'll look at some common terms in heritage and point out some basic principles. Usually when we talk about heritage, we refer to the term preservation. Preservation means keeping a building intact and preventing it from further decay. In Europe, they use this term to refer to things like ancient English castles and Roman ruins, buildings that are so important that they have to be saved, even though they can't be used for anything. Here in New Brunswick, preservation has to do with maintaining the historic appearance of a building. That means if the building is shingled, it stays that way with replacement shingles to match. If it has tall windows with real divided lights, they're preserved or replaced with the same window. Another term we hear a lot is restoration. Restoration means bringing a building back to a chosen period in time. Say you choose to bring it back to the 1860s. All the materials, designs, features, and fittings will be exactly as they would have been at that time. It takes research to do it right, just like they do at historic sites, but you'll end up with a truly authentic building. Still another term is conservation. This means maintaining the building's character while continuing to adapt it to modern requirements. So whether you're living in the home, operating it as a bed and breakfast, or converting it to another use, you're maintaining its character by keeping the form, traditional materials, and detailing, and making modern adaptations in a sensitive manner. Finally, there's renovation. This means renewing your home using modern services and materials to suit today's requirements without regard to keeping the building's heritage character. So what's the right approach? As I've said before, it depends on the architectural and historical importance of the building and how it's going to be used. To start, it might be wise to check on local bylaws or provincial regulations. If you're in a designated heritage area, or your home is a designated historic site, there may be rules or guidelines to help you. Otherwise, here are some basic principles. Determine and retain the main qualities of your building that give it its character. What are the materials? What about the form or shape? Is it balanced or haphazard? What about windows, doors, and trim? When replacing features, try to match the materials and detailing to the original. Don't try to change a building into something that it never was. If it's a Gothic revival house, don't try to make it look like a Queen Anne house. If you're adding, you don't have to make the addition look historic. Just use similar materials and form, and it'll fit in. If you're doing major alterations, try to do them so that if someone else removes them in the future, the building's character won't be lost. And while I'm on this point, it's important to record everything you do so that those who come after you can trace the building's history. Photos, drawings, and written documentation are ideal. Finally, stick to methods and techniques of repair that are tried and true. An untested material could be used incorrectly, costing you more in repairs down the road. The right approach depends on a combination of the personal needs of the user, the importance of the house, and any local bylaws or regulations. These basic principles should help.